You a fan?
Yeah, I am a fan. Yeah, he's the only one that makes sense to me. He's the only one that he doesn't attack people. He attacks actions and ideas, but he's much more reasonable and intelligent.
Joe Rogan has come out and endorsed RFK Jr. Donald Trump and MAGA are mad about this. It's going to be interesting to see if a war starts between Joe Rogan and what is much of his audience in MAGA. The Officer Tatum broke all this down. Let's take a look.
I love Donald Trump. You love Donald Trump. That's why you watching me. Most people that watch me love Donald Trump. If you don't, that's fine. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. I think the world of Joe Rogan. I think he's an incredibly smart guy. I love his podcast. You know, I never watch his comedic shows, but the last one he did that I just saw, I thought it was good. And some of y'all don't like Joe Rogan. You're entitled to your own opinion. But let me say this about the Joe Rogan and Donald Trump conflict. If you're not familiar, Donald Trump is upset with Joe Rogan because of this clip. Now, I'm going to play the clip for you guys so you can see, and then we're going to get into who do I think is right and wrong in this scenario. Let's get to this video real quick.
That's just what they do. That's politics. They do it on the left. They do it on the right. They gaslight you. They manipulate you. They promote narratives. And the only one who's not doing that is Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
You a fan?
Yeah, I am a fan. Yeah, he's the only one that makes sense to me. He's the only one that he doesn't attack people. He attacks actions and ideas, but he's much more reasonable and intelligent. I mean, the guy was an environmental attorney and cleaned up the East River. I mean, he's a legitimate guy.
So this is the clip that prompted Donald Trump to write on his X account. We'll pop the verbiage up here. This is pretty much what Donald Trump wrote on X as a response to what Joe Rogan just said, the video we just watched. He said, it would be interesting to see how loudly Joe Rogan gets booed the next time he enters the UFC ring. MAGA 2024. Now, here's my opinions on this real quick. I think Donald Trump should sit this out. I honestly think that Donald Trump should not comment anything negative about Joe Rogan. I thought that Joe Rogan could have had the pendulum swing closer and closer in Donald Trump's direction. And now Joe Rogan has no choice but to hate Donald Trump even more because he's suggesting that at Joe Rogan's venue, where people love Joe Rogan outside of politics, he's a commentator for the UFC and had a tremendous story with how he even got the position at the UFC, close friends with Dana White. He has the biggest podcast in the world. And I think it wouldn't be fruitful to say something to cause a rift or a conflict.
This is an excellent point by the Officer Tatum. Trump could have just completely ignored this. And, you know, by Donald Trump commenting on what Joe Rogan has said here, that just amplifies it even more. I mean, Joe Rogan has the biggest podcast in the world, so it's going to get out there. But Donald Trump commenting on what Joe Rogan said makes it even bigger.
I think Donald Trump could have said something that was more jokingly, like laughing, like, haha, that's funny. RFK has no chance of winning. Or something of that nature, instead of saying, watch how much he get booed next time he go to his job, his profession where he's excellent at. I just didn't think that was, I don't think that stuff is a good move. Donald Trump, in my opinion, will win handedly if he's above the fray. That means that let influencers and surrogates and people argue back and forth about these points. Donald Trump is above the fray. He don't have to even talk on this stuff. All he should be doing is talking about policy. Policy, what you're going to do as the president, having a unifying message. Don't get into the rigmarole in the weeds with these people. Because a lot of people like Joe Rogan. And people are going to have to make a decision. Oh, I don't like Trump no more. Or, you know, it's unnecessary. He should have just retweeted and laughed and said, haha, Joe Rogan. Or even put a laughy emoji or something in this post to make it seem like, yeah, I'm cool with this guy. I'm just joking. I don't know who's advising Donald Trump. I don't know if anybody can advise Donald Trump. I don't know what the scenario is. And I love Donald Trump and I want him to win. He got my vote. He signed my hat. I appreciate Donald Trump, man. But like somebody needs to say, Trump, you are going to win everybody that loved you before, just about. There's a group of people that are on the fence, and there's a group of people that are losing hope in both sides. So Kamala has to be controversial. She has to be far left. She's going to have to take some radical, crazy stances. She backed herself in a corner. She has nowhere else to go but radical. And she picked a VP that's radical. All Donald Trump has to do is sit back and say, I'm the adult in the room. When he was at that event with them ignorant black women, all he had to do is play the game. Like Barack Obama did. Like these other people do. A black woman say, you criticize Kamala Harris on the color of her skin. What he could say is, you know what? I have a lot of respect for black women. I think black women are the salt of the earth. A lot of successful, great black women. He could talk about the women that he's helped. He could talk about him being on Oprah Winfrey's show. He could just lambast about how wonderful black women are. However, Kamala Harris doesn't represent those women. Kamala Harris ain't like them. They not like us. I'm surprised that y'all not saying that. Because Kamala Harris didn't even claim her heritage of being black until more recently. Yes, she went to an HBCU. Yes, she plays as an AKA. You don't have to be black to go to HBCU, and you don't have to be black to play as AKA. You don't. I used to think you did until I went to University of Arizona and had some Mexican AKAs. I said, how is that possible? I thought it was a black sorority. But regardless of that, what are we saying? Play the game. So therefore, when they soundbite you, they got to soundbite you saying that black women are the salt of the earth. You don't have to really believe it. I don't know. It's a game. You got to play politics. What are we even saying here? And so I think that Donald Trump can win on acting and behaving like that during the home stretch. Don't argue with Cardi B and them. Don't argue with Megan Thee Stallion. Don't argue online with these celebrity types. You stay above the fray. You stay unified. You stay talking about policies. That's the only thing anybody need to hear from Donald Trump is policy, 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 policy. This is what I'm going to do when I become president. Here's all the things that I have done. Here's my track record. Here's my proof. Like, I don't get it. I disagree with Joe Rogan's stance. I mean, I think RFK ain't. But me and Joe Rogan don't see eye to eye on that. RFK is no better than any of these people. He just don't have a big infrastructure enough to attack people and do all that stuff. Nobody's listening to him. He can barely talk. Is he a brilliant guy? He's probably very smart. I thought that Donald Trump and him on a ticket would be a good ticket. Would Joe Rogan have endorsed if Donald Trump had him on the ticket? I don't know. But if you talking about gun grabbing and censoring speech, and you talking about the Green New Deal and all that stuff, I can't rock with you, Shawty. I can't rock with you. It's completely ridiculous to me. I'm a red blood Republican that love this country.
The Officer Tatum would probably be a good advisor for Donald Trump because what he's saying here is correct. If Donald Trump stayed above the fray, didn't get down in the weeds, as the Officer Tatum says here, with these influencers and celebrities and all these people, it would benefit him a lot. But my question to the Officer Tatum would be, when does Donald Trump ever operate that way? He's always down in the weeds. I mean, that's his MO, is fighting with people. His rallies, he's, at least the clips that we see of his rallies, he's talking about Kamala Harris being dumb and all of this rather than talking about policies. And he brings up Barack Obama here. I doubt if Barack Obama were running for president right now, he would comment on Joe Rogan. He definitely wouldn't tweet about Joe Rogan. So the Officer Tatum is right. Donald Trump can be upset that Joe Rogan has seemingly endorsed RFK Jr., but Donald Trump could just ignore that. There's no real reason for him to talk about this because it just makes it bigger. Or like Officer Tatum is saying here, just make a joke about it. RFK, Joe Rogan endorsing RFK Jr. ultimately will probably do nothing in this presidential race. It's not going to move the needle very much toward RFK Jr. Certainly, I mean, was never somebody who was going to have any chance of winning this race. And it's unlikely that he would get enough votes after Joe Rogan saying this to really take votes away from Donald Trump or Kamala Harris. So the Officer Tatum, this is a good strategy by him to say that Donald Trump should just focus on policy, but I don't think that's going to happen. Donald Trump said recently, I believe, there was a quote from him that if somebody likes him, Donald Trump likes that person. If they don't like him, he doesn't like them. And Donald Trump doesn't seem to be able to stay out of feuds with anyone who's critical of him, who has any level of fame or notoriety or attention. I don't know if Donald Trump just feels like there's no such thing as bad publicity, that as long as people are talking about him, that's a good thing. But it doesn't serve him well to be in a feud with Joe Rogan and his fans. Now, the question has come up, the Officer Tatum doesn't really talk about this here, but how does Joe Rogan endorsing RFK Jr., does it hurt Joe Rogan? Because a lot of his fans are Trump supporters and MAGA. So is Joe Rogan going to lose fans over this? Who knows? But I think I wanted to share this clip because I thought this was very astute by the Officer Tatum, and I haven't really seen anybody else say this. Donald Trump, just ignore Joe Rogan. It doesn't matter what he said in the overall scheme of things about RFK Jr. What do you think about this? Do you think the Officer Tatum is right here? Should Donald Trump try to be above the fray? What do you think about Joe Rogan endorsing RFK Jr.? Do you like that move by Joe Rogan? Do you think it will hurt him with his audience? Make sure to give me a like and subscribe. It helps me to grow the channel. Comment on this video if you would like to see more content like this. I'll see you in the next one.